How much money is enough to stop working at 60? What do you think? £300,000? £500,000? £1,000,000? Because I've been asking myself some version of that question now for quite a while. And I've realised that I might have been trying to answer it completely backwards. Because I've been looking at my pension and my savings and investments now for years, watching the numbers get bigger and thinking, at what point does that number mean that I can finally stop? But there's another number that I haven't properly worked out yet, and more than slightly embarrassing, because I spoke about it on this channel enough. It's probably the one that I should have started with in the first place. And that's, what does my life actually cost me? Because surely that's what enough really means. Not how big your pension is, but whether the money you've accumulated can pay for the life that you actually want once you stop earning the salary. And they're two completely different questions. Because I've always had this idea in my head that when I eventually stop working, I don't want my financial position to suddenly fall off a cliff. That's always been my worry. I'm not looking to retire and live like a monk just so that I can say, look, I retired at 60, because what's the point of that? If I've finally got 7 days a week that belong totally to me, I actually want enough money to do something with those days. And that's particularly important to me because I've still got a young family. There are holidays that I want us to have together, weekends away, things that I'd like to do while we're all still at that stage where we can actually go and do them all together. So I'm not looking for what's the absolute minimum that I can survive on. Excuse me. I'm trying to answer how much would let me stop working without feeling like I've retired from my life as well. And that's a much more useful question to ask. Because here's the first mistake I think I've been making. I've been mentally trying to replace my income, the income that I've got now. But I don't think that I'm going to need to replace all of it, because some of the things that I pay for today won't really exist when I retire. And the obvious one for lots of people is mortgage. If you're paying £1,000 a month on a mortgage, and that mortgage can disappear when you retire, you use your 25% lump sum or however way you're going to do it, that's £12,000 a year that your retirement income now doesn't have to replace. And that's enormous, £12,000 a year. It's a huge amount. And if you're commuting every single day, maybe that goes too. Work clothes, lunches, whatever your particular costs are. And then there's another side to this. Because I sometimes hear this idea that retirement automatically means you'll spend loads less money. But will you? I'm certainly not convinced that I will. Because I'll have more time. And time, that can be surprisingly expensive when you actually start trying to enjoy it. If I've now gained Monday to Friday available to me as well as the weekends, well, maybe we'll go away more often. Perhaps we'll eat out more. And I'll certainly take on more hobbies and days out. I'll probably find things around the house that suddenly desperately need doing because I've got time to sit and stare at them for most of the day. I don't know. So I don't think the answer is simply current income minus mortgage equals retirement income. I think it's more, what does my current life cost me? Take away the things that genuinely will disappear from it, but add the things that I actually want retirement to contain. And that's the income that I need to fund. So let's invent somebody, right? They're 60 years old, whether it's man or woman, it doesn't make a difference. They've got a £400,000 pension, say, and they've got another £50,000 sitting in ISAs or cash. So £450,000 available altogether as their retirement pot. And they want to stop working. Is that enough? Now, I know loads of people are going to say in the comments, yes, loads, or it's not enough, or whatever it may be. But I still don't know if that's enough for them. Because I've deliberately left out the most important piece of information that can tell you. And that's how much do they want to spend? Or how much they need to spend. Because they need £2,000 a month. Well, that's £24,000 a year they need. If they need £2,500 a month, well, that's £30,000 a year. And if they want £3,000 a month, it's £36,000 a year. You get the idea. But it's the same person and the same £450,000. But 3 completely different retirement plans out the back of it. And that's why I increasingly think that asking is X amount enough to retire, like in this scenario, is £400,000 enough to retire? Well, it's almost an impossible question to answer. Because enough for what? That's the bit that's missing. And there's another thing that changes the calculation enormously if you're talking about retiring at 60 in the UK, and that's the state pension. At the moment, the new state pension's just over £12,500 a year. But obviously that's today's figure. It'll change over time, and what you personally receive also depends on your national insurance record. But just use today's number for now so we get the point. Our imaginary 60-year-old who wants £30,000 a year, say, between 60 to 67, well, they've got to find all of that themselves in those years. And that's the difficult bit. Because 7 years at £30,000 a year, well, that's £210,000. Now, don't run off to my comments yet, please. I'm deliberately ignoring tax, inflation, investment growth, and all that other clever stuff. I'm just trying to really show the shape of the problem simply as works for me. Because something then happens at 67. That state pension arrives. And at today's full rate, that's roughly £12,500 a year. Suddenly, that private money doesn't have to provide £30,000 a year anymore. It has to provide the gap. And that's why I think the period from 60 to 67 in that scenario is so important. You're not necessarily funding exactly the same retirement from 60 until the day you die. You're funding it in stages. And this is where the standard retirement rules can sometimes scramble my brain. Because you've probably heard the 4% rule. I've touched on it myself. It's take whatever annual income you want, multiply it by 25, and there's your rough pension pot. So if I wanted £30,000 a year, 30,000 times 25 is £750,000, right? Well, I better keep working then, because I'm nowhere near that. Except, does my private pension actually need to provide the entire £30,000 the rest of my life? What about the state pension? What about ISA money? What about the possibility of other income that I might want to take some part-time job? And what costs disappear later? What happens to spending as I get older? And most importantly of all, the bit that I've still not confirmed, do I actually need £30,000? So that's the bit I'm starting to think should definitely come first. Now, I'm not suggesting £450,000 definitely means somebody can retire at 60. It might, but it might not. And markets can fall. Inflation happens. People live longer than expected, and tax obviously matters. And don't forget those unexpected expenses that can happen. And there are about 6,000 or more different arguments we could have about withdrawal rates and percentages. And we'll probably have several of them on this channel. I've already seen quite a few. But I think we sometimes obsess over making the pot bigger. I do. Obsess over it before actually defining the job that we're asking the pot to do. And that's the main thing that I've been so guilty of. Because something else I've noticed here, whatever number you reach, there's always another one. £300,000 feels really good. But then you start thinking 350,000 would feel a lot safer. You get to £350,000, well, 400,000 would be nice. Then 500,000. And I presume eventually you're sitting on a £2 million eating supermarket owned brand beans, because 2.1 million would make you feel really secure. There has to be a point where this objective changes. And perhaps the way you find that point isn't by the starting or by starting at the pension. Perhaps you'll find it by starting at life. What do I actually want retirement to look like? My retirement. What does that cost? What income will I already have from other sources? What gap does my own money need to fill? And does what I've accumulated at this point realistically fill it? Because that's starting to make much more sense to me. And then comes another, it's full of difficult decisions, this life, isn't it? But there comes another really difficult question. Let's say the numbers work at 60. Not perfectly, because there's never a guarantee, but they're reasonable. What does another working year actually buy you? And this is especially poignant to me at my recent events. Well, financially, quite a lot potentially, because it's another year of salary. It's another year of paying into your pension, another year where you aren't drawing from it, and another year of potential investment growth. And one less year the retirement pot needs support. So I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody just leave it, just leave, it'll be fine, don't think about it. Because I'm not one to say that. I can't. Because I don't know that, and nor does anybody. But I think there is another question that's worth asking, and I've not been great at this myself. Does that extra year materially change the retirement that you can afford? Because if it does, well, maybe it's worth it. If working one more year moves you from this is a kind of really tight retirement plan over to this looks comfortable, well, that's a powerful argument for working that extra year. But what if it doesn't? What if another year simply takes a plan that already works and makes the number on the screen slightly bigger? Well, that's where this stops being purely a financial question. And I think that's ultimately what I'm trying to work out for myself over the next couple of years. Not how much money can I possibly accumulate before I stop? Because the answer to that is easy. More and more. You can always accumulate more. I want to find the point where I can look at what I've got and comfortably say, this is enough to fund the life that I actually want. Not the minimum life that I can tolerate. Not some fantasy retirement where I'm permanently on a cruise ship drinking cocktails. Although, give me a decent drinks package and we can negotiate on that. But more our life without the mortgage, with some holidays, with time for the family, with enough margin that every unexpected bill doesn't start making me panic and running back to work. And without feeling that every time I spend £100, I've damaged that retirement plan. And the slightly ridiculous thing is that I haven't finished working out exactly what that life cost me yet. I spent years thinking about pensions and retirement, as I said at the start. I've made God knows how many videos about it on this channel. But I'm still working that bit out for myself. But I certainly am beginning to think that it's more actually the exercise that matters most. I've got to get on and do it, because until I know what I'm trying to fund, how can I possibly know whether I've got enough to cover it? So I guess if you're approaching retirement and you start staring at your pension and you're thinking 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, whatever you have, is that enough? Well, perhaps it's time to start somewhere else. Don't start with the pot. Start with the life. What does it cost you now? What will disappear when you stop working? And what might you actually want to spend more on? And what other income could arrive later? And then ask, what does my pension actually need to do? Because perhaps enough isn't a number someone here on me, predominantly on YouTube, can give you. I don't think anyone can. Perhaps it's the point where your money can realistically support your life without you having to keep exchanging years for money that you don't actually need and won't ever need. And that, as I said, that's the number that I'm trying to find. So if you're somewhere around the same stage as me, please subscribe and follow along, because I'm working this out in real time as I head towards that number 60. And I'd really like to know something. What does enough mean to you? Is it a pension number that you're aiming for? Is it a monthly income? Is it having no mortgage? A safety buffer? Or have you actually already reached your number and then you've, I can relate, moved it again? Because I've got a sneaking suspicion quite a few of us are doing that every time. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.